Hi there, my name's Chris.
My name is Mark, and we are Team Building with Byte.
And we run unique team building workshops in animal collections around the UK.
And we're doing some myth busting in this series, and we want to talk to you today about the myth that all team building is just boring, unmemorable, and it all rolls into one. Because we can guarantee that with our team building, that's not the case. And we know this to be true because, for example, one of our recent clients we spoke to 18 months after the event told us not only did the participants still talk about the session to this day, they could also still feel the benefits of the work that we did with them. So this one was a really in-depth brief. It was actually probably the most complicated brief we'd ever been through. But we had about an hour and a half long conversation with the manager of the team beforehand. And essentially they had 16 people who had previously been two separate teams, and they worked in two separate offices with a single corridor dividing the two. And although the fact they were now one team, this corridor was a real psychological divide for them, and they still essentially acted as two separate units. So they asked us if we could basically put all 16 people together and get them working as one unit. And we had a long conversation about actually why this might not be the best idea, because if you put 16 people together, then they are unfortunately going to split into their own natural, comfortable cliques. So instead, what we decided to do was split the 16 into two groups, mixing up completely the two offices. And then what we actually wanted to do was create a challenge which meant they had to work within those groups mixed up, but also actually bring those two ideas together as well.
So in this case, what we've actually done is at Portland within the Aspinall Suite is where we sometimes run workshops. We actually laid out one of the primates, so a mangabey, we actually laid out their enclosure on the floor. So you can see here the electrical tape all over the floor. And basically this represents the enclosure itself. So the two groups actually had two separate parts of that enclosure. And they could obviously design everything within that floor space there, so they knew exactly where it was going to end up later on. And the whole point of this is that although there were two groups, they had to work together to make sure that the things that they were designing all met at three different points throughout this exhibit.
And they weren't allowed to just kind of have two platforms that ended up butting up against each other. They had to convincingly meet between the two. So Chris and I both love watching people, and it was a really, really actually great fun watching these two separate units of people kind of finding their own comfort zones and both actually taking quite different approaches to how they were going to design the furniture they were talking about. And then we actually brought them all back together, and they had to communicate across the two groups as to how they were actually going to meet these things up as well. It was a full-day event. It was absolutely fantastic to watch. The entire design process probably took about 2 hours, which left them about 3 hours at the end for building. But they actually did a really fantastic job, and it was a little bit of a tight squeeze to get everything into the van, to get it down to the monkey enclosure and install it, while the group had a very well-earned tea break, and then they came down to see the mangabeys respond. And fantastically, the mangabeys responded very, very well, and the group actually got to see them jumping around on some of the stuff that they'd made.
And not only that, but I mean, as with a lot of our workshops, we also got some fantastic feedback as well from the organisers, as you can see here.
So yes, hopefully that has showed you that not only can team building be incredibly memorable, it can also be a huge amount of fun. So if you're interested in this kind of team building that really is going to leave a mark on your participants, then please do get in contact, and we'd be happy to come and brainstorm some ideas with you about how we can get your group working together to make lasting memories. Thanks very much for joining us. Bye-bye.